My name is Kofi, and I still remember the day when strange events began to unfold in our quiet village of Nyaniba. It was the time of the Harmattan winds, and the air carried a dry whisper that seemed to foretell trouble. The center of it all was Leah, a beautiful young woman whose laughter could brighten even the gloomiest day. She was the daughter of Elder Kwaku, a man respected by all in the village. Leah was known for her kindness and a gift of weaving intricate kente patterns, which women from neighboring villages would travel far to buy. A betrothal to Kwame, a merchant's son, was announced during a celebration under the great baobab tree. The villagers cheered, and drums echoed into the night. Kwame, tall and confident, seemed a fitting match. His family was wealthy, and the union promised to bring prosperity to Leah's family. But it wasn't long after the engagement that whispers began. One evening, as the sun set and the sky blazed orange, I was fetching water near the river when I saw Leah. She was standing on the bank, staring at the water. At first, I thought she was admiring the reflection of the setting sun. Then, I noticed something odd. Her shadow. It wasn't aligned with her body. While she stood still, her shadow swayed gently, like it was alive. I called out to her, and she turned quickly, startled. "Kofi, it's nothing," she said with a nervous laugh. But her eyes betrayed her unease. Over the next few days, more unusual things happened. Leah began avoiding the midday sun, choosing instead to stay indoors, weaving by the dim light of a lantern. Friends noticed her growing quiet and distant, but no one dared to question her. Not until Amma, her closest friend, came to me one evening, her voice trembling. "Kofi, something is wrong with Leah. I saw her shadow move on its own." It reached out and touched Kwame's shoulder as they walked together. Amma's words chilled me. Shadows that moved independently were said to be an omen, a warning of spiritual unrest or a curse. I decided to speak with Elder Kwaku, but when I arrived at his compound, I found him pacing, worry etched on his face. "Elder, I fear for Leah," I said. He sighed deeply and motioned for me to sit. "I've noticed it too," he admitted. "Her mother and I consulted a diviner. He told us that Leah's shadow is tied to an ancestor, a restless spirit seeking closure. But he warned us not to interfere until the spirit reveals its purpose." The wedding day approached, and the entire village gathered to celebrate. Leah wore a radiant golden kente cloth she had woven herself, and Kwame beamed with pride. But as the sun reached its zenith and the elders began the marriage rites, a gasp rippled through the crowd. Leah's shadow, dark and elongated, stretched unnaturally far across the ground. It moved in slow, deliberate gestures like someone performing a ritual dance. The drummers faltered, their rhythm breaking as fear gripped the onlookers. Kwame stepped back, his face pale. "What is this?" he shouted. Leah looked at her shadow and then at the crowd, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she whispered. Elder Kwaku raised his staff and called for calm. He turned to the diviner who had been sitting quietly among the elders. "Tell us what must be done." The diviner stood and spoke in a deep, measured voice. "The shadow seeks justice. It belongs to a woman wronged long ago, a bride who was betrayed and left to die on her wedding day. Her spirit has found Leah as a vessel to tell her story." The crowd murmured, some stepping away in fear. The diviner continued, "We must perform the cleansing ceremony before the sun sets, or the spirit will take permanent hold of Leah." The elders prepared the ritual quickly, lighting a fire and placing sacred herbs in its center. They chanted prayers, calling on the ancestors to reveal the truth. As the smoke rose, Leah's shadow began to change. It grew sharper, darker, and more defined until it formed the shape of a woman. Through Leah, the spirit spoke. Her name was Abena, a bride from a neighboring village who had been betrayed by her groom many years ago. He had stolen her dowry and fled, leaving her to wander the wilderness until she died of hunger and heartbreak. The villagers were horrified, but the diviner reassured them. The spirit seeks closure, not revenge. She wishes for her story to be told and her memory honored. The elders and villagers gathered at the riverbank where Abina's spirit had first appeared to Leah. They performed a final rite, offering food, cloth and prayers to the water. As the last chant faded, Leah's shadow returned to normal. The next day, the wedding continued, and though the joy was subdued, there was a sense of peace. Leah and Kwame exchanged vows under the baobab tree, and the villagers celebrated late into the night. Even now, when the harmattan winds blow through Nyaniba, some say they can hear Abina's laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. A reminder that the spirits of the past are never far from us.